Good to hear
Thanks for
you.
being here.
In your debate, you mentioned, all of you mentioned contemplating for your services or department secretary.
Last night in the debate, they asked us if we were willing to eliminate the Department of Education, for instance, and I said absolutely. My other two opponents said the same. There are other departments that I think we ought to look at. We have states that are have responsibility for interstate trade, competition for business. Why do we have a U.S. Department of Commerce when the states have their economic development entities, and really that's their responsibility? We have the responsibility to make sure that interstate commerce is allowed. We don't violate that. But to have a U.S. Department of Commerce, a lot of people are saying, why do we have another layer of regulatory power? Energy, the same thing. When the states are responsible with the task of making sure the lights stay on, and businesses have energy sources that are efficient and low cost for them. The Department of Energy seems to have become simply a department of standing in the way of energy. They become a second department of the environment. I think these are areas we have to look at. But I look at education, and it's so easy to look at the Constitution and see not one article or section, not one statement, not one clause, not one sentence that gives the federal government responsibility for education. Then I read the state constitution and I come quickly to Article 8, Section 1 that says religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary to good government and happiness of mankind, schools, and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. So we have a responsibility, and that means encouraging schools, public, private, parochial, alternative, homeschool, you name it. Not standing in the way, not inhibiting, but saying we're going to encourage education because as the teacher in the room knows for certain, and as a parent in the room knows, every child learns differently. So let's make sure that there are resources available, that our public schools are helped, not hindered, that we don't make them the clearinghouse for all social change and neglect education. I have a daughter-in-law who was a public school teacher in Chicago. Her first year teaching in school, she just loved, had no paperwork, just taught. Did a fabulous job, came home every night just thrilled with her opportunity to educate kids. She was a special ed teacher. The next year she was hired on as a full-time teacher, not a full-time substitute. The women's class that she substituted full-time and one day just got up, walked out of the room, never came back. So frustrating. So Erin took over, and she wasn't responsible for filling out the forms for No Child Left Behind and for the Illinois testing program and for the Chicago program. So she just taught. They saw growth in the kids, and one little guy by the name of Moses was a stem winder. I mean, difficult. He was probably single-handedly responsible for the other teacher getting up and never coming back. But Erin took him under her wing, spent time with him, and surprised the parents at home and showing up on their doorstep. But she didn't have all of that bureaucratic problem. The next year she had all of it. And I remember talking to Erin with tears in her eyes, saying, Dad, I'm not sure I'm cut out to teach. She was cut out to teach. Absolutely. She wasn't cut out to fill out layers and layers and layers of extra bureaucratic paperwork that added nothing except cost and frustration to teachers. Am I against quality education and making sure we know that quality education? No, I'm not against it. But let's make sure it's realistic, and ultimately, parents, the school board members, the faculty and administration are responsible for that. In fact, they're trained to do that. And let's not the bureaucracy step in.